So, the plot thickens, eh? We already made 2 videos in regards to this situation with this player because a few days ago, heading into the trade deadline, we saw ourselves forward Ryan Johansen get sent over from the Colorado Avalanche to the Philadelphia Flyers. We discussed this trade in the Bowen Byram Casey Middlestad video. A few days later, we also talked about how apparently Ryan Johansen was not really all too liked in the room in the weeks leading up to the trade deadline, and how apparently, according to some of the reports out there, star players on the team were very much sour to the way Johansen approached the game and his work ethic on the ice, etc., etc. Lots of stuff that Colorado Avalanche fans have been talking about for most of this year. But the interesting thing about the Johansen trade to Philadelphia, and we had talked about this in the first video, was that immediately after Johansen was acquired by Philly, they put him on waivers, and he cleared. So right now, if you go over onto Ryan Johansen's Elite Prospects page, he's actually listed as a member of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms in the AHL. And he hasn't played a game or anything, but we had ourselves some extra word from earlier today on the 32 Thoughts podcast with Friedman and Merrick. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go ahead and listen to the podcast. It's always a really good listen, especially around this time of the year. But the newest episode with Tortorella's Tantrum Fallout and the Golden LTIR, you'll find yourselves a conversation talking about all these things. Now, we did make a video yesterday about John Tortorella and the shenanigans that he pulled off in that game the other day against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but we didn't follow up on that. Hey, guess what? Tortorella got suspended and he got a fine. He's out for 2 games and he's got $50,000 that he'll have to shell out to the NHL. But based off of the comments made by Philadelphia Flyers ownership, they're going to go out there and pay the fine regardless, and Torts will miss his 2 games, get forfeited salary from that, and that's about it. So, yeah. Pretty good gamble, I would say, in regards to the impact that Tortorella was able to have on the hockey world with that moment. But speaking about Tortorella, we had ourselves a few extra comments made by Friedman on the podcast that go over Ryan Johansen and his relationship with the entire situation here. To help us out, we're going over onto Philly hockey now from earlier today because Jonathan Bailey has the quotes, and this is a good piece. It kind of describes the situation as a whole while also giving the transcriptions we need. Ryan Johansen injured, wants to reconcile with Flyers John Tortorella. Link in the description as well to this piece. But according to NHL insider Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast, he says that Tortorella and Johansen, they have a complicated history, to say the least. And I heard there was some attempt of a reconciliation. Like, Johansen indicated that he would like to make it work, and he wanted to play in the NHL and play for the Flyers. I heard the Flyers were willing to have the conversation, and then came word that Johansen's battling something, whether an injury or what the case was, so now that's all on hold. He also said that we'll see where this goes, too. There are some hard feelings there, just in general, because Ryan Johansen is represented by Kurt Overhart, and Overhart represents Cutter Gauthier. Because Cutter Gauthier is in the NCAA, Kurt Overhart is his family advisor. There are some hard feelings there, and people wonder how much that plays into this. We'll see where that goes with Ryan Johansen and Philly. Now, further to this idea, we did talk about this in the Colorado video a few days ago, but Ryan Johansen was indeed under a Tortorella system in the past. He played in the Columbus Blue Jackets system. He had a 71-point year, which is honestly kind of impressive when you acknowledge how good he was in that time frame. But as Johansen's career went on, his point production kind of dwindled, kind of spiked. It got up to 60 points, it went down to 20 points, and then it got up to 60 points again. And this season with Colorado, he had 23 points in 63 games played. So Ryan Johansen definitely had a very strange career development path, especially when you consider his status as a top 5 pick. He was 4th overall in 2010. He had all these intangibles that made him so good and so skilled and whatever, but long term, it's not like he got better and better and better. He got better, and then he got worse, and then he got better again, and then he sort of got worse, and then he was in Colorado where the top stars of the team didn't like him, and then he got traded, and now he's getting waived. There's a lot going on here. And the Tortorella Ryan Johansen thing, I think if you wanted to talk about that, a lot of people would say, okay, yeah, Ryan Johansen's work ethic and his issues in Colorado, these are the antithetical qualities that John Tortorella would absolutely despise. Like, the way Johansen suited up for the Avs is not like he had suited up in the Columbus Blue Jackets, and even in the Blue Jacket system, there were already some symptoms of what he is now. It's just back then he was producing a lot more points, so you could debate that he got away with it. But now, Ryan Johansen, he's not putting in the work ethic and he's not getting the points to justify that. So John Tortorella, having some sort of a complicated history with Ryan Johansen, making this interesting, it is a worthwhile point to note. I'm not going to go out there and say that Ryan Johansen was waived strictly because of his relationship with John Tortorella. It's just, you know, it does play a part into it. This was an NHL guy making a fairly significant amount of money at $4 million a year against the Philadelphia Flyers cap. But there are extra things that could be brought up into that discussion, like the agent situation, how Kurt Overhart and Ryan Johansen are clients, how Kurt Overhart was pretty much responsible in some way for the Cutter Gauthier fallout from earlier this year. Would the Philadelphia Flyers have some sort of a grudge on this agent and thus some of his other clients? I mean, if you look at the clientele for Kurt Overhart, the interesting thing about it is that Ryan Johansen on the Flyers isn't his only player that he has on Philadelphia. If you scroll down, Helge Grans is actually a Flyers prospect that is represented by Overhart as well. So who knows? Like, there could be some sort of an extra thing here, but Cutter Gauthier did have himself that representation, and he did force himself to get moved. Just, if it really matters, I mean, if you want to talk about the Anaheim Ducks, Kurt Overhart does have two top players represented within the Ducks organization in Troy Terry and John Gibson, so maybe there's a little bit more comfort there if you wanted to attack it from that angle. But I do think it is interesting, though, that Friedman said that Ryan Johansen is working to reconcile. He wants to go out there and fix things and make it work and be able to play in the NHL and play for Torts and play for the Flyers. How far we'll go with that, who really knows? But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, okay, reconcile with Tortorella. Is that all that's needed here to make Ryan Johansen fit in with the Flyers as a proper player? Like, if Ryan Johansen goes up to Torts and says sorry, apologizes for whatever, like, work ethic stuff maybe years ago in Columbus, whatever, like, then okay, cool, you can always forgive and forget. It's good for people to bury their hatchets and just be in a position to forgive. I think that's a pretty good human quality, right? But from the way that Johansen has played this year with Colorado, I don't care if you're the most likable person in the world. Everybody loves you, everybody forgives you for everything. If you play like you played with the Colorado Avalanche, where all the stars on that team, let's just try to fill in some of the blanks here. Let's just say maybe Taves, maybe Makar, maybe Rantanen, McKinnon. I mean, the report said that some star players, right? So maybe not all of them, but like, if you say that Nathan McKinnon is pissed off at the way that you play as a teammate, and they're already kind of souring on you on the bench because they don't like it when you're going out there and dogging it, is John Tortorella going to let that go just because you're a likable dude and you apologize? Probably not. Like, you have to own up to whatever it is that you are apologizing for by showing that you have grown and become better. But for Ryan Johansen, from his days in Columbus till now, he's gotten kind of worse. So I'm very intrigued as to seeing where this story is going to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the very awkward tensions between the Philadelphia Flyers and Ryan Johansen, with John Tortorella, with the agent involved. Links are going to be in the description to the 32 Thoughts pod as well as the article that we read. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.